Okay, so welcome back. Today we're going to be looking at indirect taxes and different types of indirect taxes. One is called a specific tax or a fixed amount tax or per unit tax, and the other is called an ad valorem or a percentage tax. We're going to be looking at why the government would impose indirect taxes, or what they call excise taxes. So if you see that on a test or anything, an excise tax is simply an indirect tax. And then we're going to distinguish between specific and ad valorem taxes. We're going to draw them out and things like that. So anyway, let's go ahead and get started and look at why a government would think about imposing. Okay, so why impose a per unit tax? And there's really two primary reasons to impose the tax. All right, so the first thing that we're going to look at is uh, the idea that we want to discourage the production, consumption, or simply the exchange of the product. And so we know that if we tax a product, exchange of product, we know that if we tax a product, then people will generally buy less of it. Okay, and we're going to get into a little bit later about if it's an inelastic product or an elastic product, and what's going to happen when we tax either of those goods. We're going to see that inelastic products, it'll discourage consumption, but not by a whole lot. And so let's look at like a cigarette tax. All right, so cigarette tax is a per unit tax, and let's look at something called S-chip. All right, this was back in early 2009, and this was one of Obama's first big bills that he got through. And the S-chip was simply to fund children's health care. Okay, to get some more money to fund children's health care. All right, and so you might ask yourself, what was this tax for? Was it to, we're putting an extra dollar tax. It was an extra dollar per pack. All right, and so are we trying to discourage the production or the consumption of this product through this dollar tax? And so an optimist might come out and say, you know what, this is a good thing. Let's charge them more so we can discourage this. This is bad for everybody. A lot of negative externalities associated with it, and so let's put this dollar tax on it. All right. And so if that were simply the case, then we would say, yeah, that this dollar tax is used to discourage the consumption because as the price gets higher, we're going to buy less of it. Now, the other, and this is where cigarettes are kind of interesting because you could argue either one of these two things. The other would be to fund certain programs. All right. And so when you look at this, the S-chip, the dollar per pack tax on cigarettes, that money was going for children's health care. All right. And so I would say that tax kind of serves a dual purpose. If it happens, if it impacts either of these, we'd say it's almost a positive thing. And so if that dollar per pack tax caused people to decrease consumption, we'd say, hey, that's a good thing. Or if they kept consuming and they all paid a dollar extra, we'd say, hey, this isn't a bad thing either because now we can fund children's health care. All right, gasoline tax. For every gallon of gas that you pump, you pay, I'll just make up a number, this probably isn't anywhere close, but let's say that you pay 90 cents extra per gallon. All right, and so what does the government do with this 90 cents per gallon? Well, they're going to they fund a lot of road programs. By programs, I mean building roads, fixing roads, things like that, infrastructure development, but primarily roads. And they do this because they figure that if people are buying a bunch of gas, they're the users of it. And so this is what they call a benefits received principal tax. But anyway, that's another story. So these are the two main reasons that governments would impose an excise tax or an indirect tax. Again, to discourage the production or consumption of a good. By raising the price, we're going to cause the quantity demanded to go down, which would be the goal, or to fund certain programs. All right, and so that's this part. That's that bullet. All right, so let's go to the next one. Let me erase this, clear that. All right, so now we want to distinguish between a specific tax, we're going to call this a per unit tax, and an ad valorem tax, and we're going to call this percentage tax. All right. And so all this specific or per unit tax is so for cigarettes. All right. We know that for every pack that they sell, we're going to charge them an extra dollar per pack. All right. And so if the producers were going to sell the cigarettes at $3, then we would add this tax to it, and the price would become $4. All right. If it's a gallon of gas, and the gas is $3.50, and we're tacking 90 cents onto it like we did earlier, then for every unit of gas, we would tack on 90 cents. This would be $4.40. Now the question is, what if this price went up to $10? All right. Well, remember, it's just a per gallon. This is $10 per gallon, so this is a per unit tax, and so for every gallon, so we still have to just add the 90 cents to it. All right, it doesn't matter how high the price gets. We're just looking at single units sold and applying the tax for each individual unit. So the ad valorem tax, or the percentage tax, is a little bit different. So let's say that cigarettes were $3, and we're going to charge a 10% ad valorem tax. All right, and so this $3, we'd have to add on 10% of that, so that would be 30 cents. All right, and so the final price would be $3.30. So the tax for this would be 30 cents. Now, what if the price went up to 10 bucks? Just making up numbers here. And so now it's not a per unit tax, it's the price tag. All right, and so if the cigarettes are $10 a pack, we have to take 10% of that and add it to it, and so that would be $1. And so now the cigarettes would cost $11. And what I want you to see is that the tax when the price is lower was 30 cents. When the price went up is $1. And so when you put an ad valorem tax on it, that's saying that as the price of something goes up, the tax that's going to be charged on that is going to go up as well. All right. Again, over here, this is a per unit tax, and so if there's $1 tax on cigarettes and the price is $3, we've got to add the dollar to it, and so the total pack would be $4. If the price of cigarettes went up to $10, what would be the tax then? And so since this is simply a per unit tax, $1 per pack, we keep the tax at $1, and so then it's $11. And so you can see here the tax stays the same, and here it goes up based on the price. All right, so that's distinguishing between a specific and an ad valorem taxes. All right, so let's look. We've got to draw diagrams to show the specific and ad valorem taxes and analyze their impacts on market outcomes. All right, so here's how we're going to do it. Let's start off with the specific. And again, this is a per unit tax. And so we know that this is the supply curve, all right? And we'll just draw a demand curve in here. And we know that at this price, that's quantity, it's the market equilibrium, all right? And so that's going to go, well, you know what? Let me not do the demand curve. So sorry, hope I didn't get to the demand curve yet. So this is the supply curve. Let's just pick a product, and let's say that the product price is $5. All right, and so we're going to come over here and we'll say, at $5, they'll produce 100 of them. All right, and so what we do with a per unit tax is, remember, it's like let's say this is $1 tax. And so what we want to do is simply shift the supply curve up vertically. All right, it's not a left or a rightward shift. It's supply shifted up vertically by $1. All right, so let me see if I can get a straight line here, which will make it just at least a little bit neater. All right, and so we're going to try and shift that up by $1. And so these are going to be parallel. All right, and so when we look at it, this distance here is $1. All right, this distance here is $1, and this distance here is $1. All right, and any distance in between any of these is going to be $1. And so what we want to look at is that when there's a per unit tax placed on this, we shift the supply curve up. So let me get a different color here because it's going to get all. So we want to, let's say that's S1. We're going to make that S1 plus the tax. All right, and so this is our new supply curve. And so now we can look at it and say, okay, at $5, what happens to the quantity supplied? and you can notice that the quantity supplied is going to go down a fair amount. All right, and so that's what's going to happen in the market. All right, and so we're going to throw the demand curve in here in just a minute. But let's look at an ad valorem tax. Ad valorem tax. All right, and again, this is a percentage tax. So let's draw this down. All right, that's Q. That's the price. You know what? Let's use a straight line. A red straight line. How about that? All right, and so we'll label this S1. All right, and so let's do this again. And so let's say that the price of this product, so we can sell 100 of them. Quantity supplied of 100. I'm sorry, make that 1. Just keep it simple here. So that's 1, and we're going to say the price is $100. All right, and we're going to have a 10% ad valorem tax. And so at a quantity of 1, what's the tax going to be here? And so it's 10% tax of the price. And so we need to go up here by $10. All right, because that's what a 10% tax is. So this is going to be 110. So we know that this point is going to be part of our supply curve. All right, so let's see, what if it were, if we had a quantity of 2, let's go over, let's just pretend, it's off scale a little bit, but let's pretend at a quantity of 2, the price is $150. So at $150 I'll supply 2. And so now what's this new, actually hang on, so it's going to be that point. And so now what's the tax on this $150 going to be? And so it's 10% of that, and so we're going to need to go up by how much? $15. All right, and then bring that over. So that's 165. All right, let's get another dot here. And so what I want you to be seeing here is that this distance is 15, this distance is 10. Let's do one more. Let's say that 3 units, and again, this is going to be off scale, so I apologize, but so let's say 3 units at a price of $200, they'll sell 3 units to us, and so we need to plot the new line. And so what would the ad valorem tax be on this? And so you'd say 10% of 200 is 20, and so this needs to go up by a factor of 20. All right, so that'll come over, and so that's 220. So now what we want to do, so that dot would be there. Now what we want to do is connect the dots. All right, and so it should look, oops, not like that. Let me get a green line here. So it should look something like that. All right, and so let's get back to where I can write something here. And so we'll say that this is S1 plus the tax. And so over here, the distance between these two lines was always $1 because it was a per unit tax. Over here, the distance between the lines is greater because as the price goes up, the amount of the tax is going to go up. All right, because it's a percentage of the price, and as the number gets bigger, the percentage gets bigger. So here it was 10, here it was 15, and there it was 20. All right, and so that's kind of what they're talking about here is in terms of market outcomes. All right, and we're going to get a little more specific with one of the other videos and looking at exactly what happens to consumers and producers and all that stuff. So let me just give you a quick preview, and then we're going to get into this section. This will be the second video of this part. So just to foreshadow a little bit. All right. So let's say that we're just going to do a per unit tax. All right. So there's the price and quantity, and let's say that here's the demand curve, and here is the supply curve, and that'll be S1. So let's say that the price is $5. Again, I'm just kind of making these numbers up, and the quantity, wow, that is not a straight line at all. I can do a little bit better than that. All right, how about that? So the price is $5, and the quantity is 100. And so here we have the demand curve. So let's jack this up. Let's say it's $1 specific tax. And remember, the other term for specific was, anyone? Bueller? Specific is a per unit. Almost forgot myself. So per unit tax. And so we're going to raise it up by $1 here. Remember, we're just moving the supply curve vertically by $1. And so what we're going to end up with is, let me get a line. So trying to make this as parallel as possible. And so it would look something like that. All right. So we know that this distance between the equilibrium going straight up, what's this number over here going to be? All right. And hopefully you can look at it and say, okay, this is 5. And we know if we go vertically up, all right, then by the amount of the tax, so that would be $6. Does that mean that the price of cigarettes is going to be, if this is cigarettes, let's just make it cigarettes. Does that mean that the price of cigarettes is going to be $6? And so what you want to do is look at, well, let me back that up. Would the producer, and this is S1 plus the tax, would the producer like to be able to say, okay, the price is $6? And the answer is yes, because that way they would still be receiving $5 in revenue. But what happens is, you can see that as the price rises along this demand curve, then the quantity demanded is going to go down. All right, so let's say that this is 80. All right, and now we would say, what it, oh Lord, making bad lines again. So now we can say, what is this new equilibrium price? All right, and so let's just say it's like $5.75. And I'm not going to go into everything here, but that's the next video. But you can see that if the tax was $1, and one thing to note is that the producer is responsible for paying the tax. I need to stop using caps yet. Paying the tax to the government. All right. And so here, the price is now $5.75, right? And so the producer is going to get $5.75 from the consumer, all right? But out of this $5.75, what do they need to do? They need to take $1 of it and give it to the federal or whatever government. They have to give it to the government. And so, in terms of revenue for the cigarette company or whichever company this is, you have to take $1 out of this $5.75, and so now they're only getting $4.75 in revenue. All right, and this is where they're not going to be happy, because beforehand, this equilibrium price that they were at originally, they were getting all 5 of those dollars. When a tax got put on it, they got more money for the cigarettes, but they sold fewer, but they have to pay the whole tax to the government. That's why they would love it if the price were $6, you know. But anyway, so this is just kind of a foreshadowing. In the next video, we're going to get into specifically how this works and who pays what taxes and the effect on the consumers, producers, and government. So until next time, that's it for today. That's it for now.